In the late 1950s, Dr. Timothy Leary was exactly what you would expect a Harvard clinical psychologist to be. He wore sharp suits, held a respected career mapping interpersonal behavior, and operated at the top of his field. The Harvard Center for Research in Personality operated under a rigid, objective framework. Researchers observed subjects from a distance, gathering measurable data points to catalog the mechanics of the human mind. Then came the summer of 1960. While on vacation in Mexico, Leary consumed psilocybin mushrooms for the first time. For a man who had spent his adult life classifying predictable behavior, this experience presented a profound anomalous data point. Returning to Cambridge, he reached a radical conclusion. He claimed that in 5 hours under the influence of psilocybin, he had learned more about the brain's hidden capabilities than he had in 15 years of institutional research. This discovery necessitated a break from distant observation. Leary realized that to study altered states, the scientist had to participate in the experiment, moving toward a naturalistic approach where the researcher shared the subject's experience. Alongside his colleague Richard Alpert, Leary launched the Harvard Psilocybin Project. They administered the drug to groups of volunteers, including a study at Concord State Prison, where they worked with inmates to see if these experiences could reduce criminal recidivism. These sessions led to the formalization of set and setting. They proved that a psychedelic experience is not a fixed pharmacological reaction. It is determined by the user's internal mindset and their physical environment. The broader Harvard faculty watched this methodology with growing alarm. Critics pointed to the lack of controlled conditions, the researchers' personal drug use, and an overall abandonment of traditional scientific boundaries. By May of 1963, the university terminated both Leary and Alpert. This firing brought the project to an abrupt end, transforming Leary from a sanctioned academic into an independent investigator of the mind. Locked out of academia, Leary pivoted to a larger arena. He advocated for a mass deconditioning from societal scripts, encouraging a new generation to rethink their roles through his famous catchphrase, "Turn on, tune in, drop out." As the Vietnam War escalated, the government viewed millions of young adults abandoning their programmed social roles as a strategic threat. This widespread psychological reprogramming risked the stability of the war effort and national order. The official response culminated in 1970, when President Richard Nixon publicly labeled Timothy Leary the most dangerous man in America. The consequences of that label were immediate. Leary faced constant police raids and a 30-year prison sentence for a minor marijuana possession charge, leading to an escape and a life as an international fugitive. The federal government's pursuit framed Leary's theories as functional tools for dismantling the state's psychological control over the individual. Recaptured and placed in solitary confinement in the mid-1970s, Leary found himself cut off from the counterculture. Isolated in a cell, he maintained intense focus, turning his attention to the long-term evolution of the human species. He developed the 8-circuit model of consciousness, proposing the brain contains dormant circuits triggered as we evolve. The 4 terrestrial circuits govern earthly survival, territory, language, and social norms. The 4 post-terrestrial circuits enable zero-gravity existence, light-speed communication, and connection with our genetic code. Leary viewed psychedelics as chemical tools to activate these stellar circuits, preparing humanity for its transition from the womb planet to life among the stars. Upon his release in 1976, Leary pivoted toward a new agent of consciousness expansion. He believed that the computer would eventually do for the individual what psychedelics had done for the 1960s. He codified this vision into the SMI2LE philosophy. This stood for space migration, intelligence increase, and life extension, the 3 goals he believed were necessary for species survival. He proclaimed the personal computer was the LSD of the 1990s. It was a tool that allowed individuals to boot up and jack in, creating their own digital realities and bypassing centralized information control. For Leary, both digital technology and psychedelics shared the same objective. They were means to decentralize power and liberate the individual mind from external authority. In 1997, a portion of Leary's ashes was launched into space, a literal fulfillment of his thesis that our ultimate destination lay beyond Earth's orbit. Today, researchers at institutions like Johns Hopkins and New York University are conducting FDA-approved clinical trials. They are gathering empirical data that confirms the clinical efficacy of psilocybin, first reported by the Harvard Project in the 60s. Timothy Leary remains a complex figure, but he leaves the legacy of a mapmaker, a researcher who spent a lifetime looking at a future where neuroscience, digital technology, and the stars converge.